The Black Studies Department at City College started in 1971. Of course, this is part of what was happening throughout the country. Starting in '69 at San Francisco State, especially through student activism, students started demanding that academia should be able to deal with the experience of African Americans. I came on board at City College I was interviewed in 1972, but I didn't start until spring of 1973. The department was about 1 year old. Our first main task was to write the curriculum, and that is the part I played a big role in, the courses that we were offering. In writing the curriculum, we emphasized a multidisciplinary department that dealt with history, culture, and we also included the building of skills such as writing and thinking within the department. So our first task was to write courses that will cover history, sociology, psychology, literature, art, music, and also the English skills building courses. So that really consumed the first 2 years here besides teaching. And of course, all throughout, this department was sustained by our involvement in the community. The community was very important to us. And much more important was the fact that the students were very, very active. As a matter of fact, when I was hired, one of the person interviewing me was a student. So at that time, students still participated in, in the process of hiring. So that is from 1973 through 1975, we really had written most of the curriculum. It is also important to point out that the Black Studies Department and the Black community in general was very active in creating the educational cultural complex. The students are the ones who demanded the establishment of Black Studies. Not only did they demand, but they occupied, the Chicano students and Black students actually occupied the administration, demanding that unless there's a creation of Black Studies, the institution was not going to have some peace. So I wasn't there at the beginning of that activism, but by the time I arrived, it was still going on. But the students really were in the forefront in terms of demanding the creation of Black Studies. Fortunately, they did have some support of some faculty. Especially we had two faculty in the history department, Professor Baker, but especially Professor Larry Schwartz. And of course, people who were in AFT know that Larry Schwartz was really the cornerstone of the AFT and eventually spearheading the move to make AFT the bargaining unit. The other important part was the fact that when we wrote the curriculum, we made sure that all our courses fulfill the different requirements. For example, all our history courses fulfill American institutions. The literature, art, music fulfill the humanities. The sociology, psychology fulfill the social sciences. And we built all these in to fit in all these different categories. The most important thing is that all our courses were built in to make sure that they transfer and also they fulfill the general education requirements for students. And we wrote that with an eye on that. Another important involvement for the Black Studies, which came in the 1980s, was to create a requirement for all students to be able to take a course that gives them a different perspective instead of just the traditional Euro-American perspective. So the Chicano studies and Black studies were very active in, demanding from the administration and the board the creation of this new requirement that will be known as the Multicultural Studies graduation requirement of all students, those who get AA and those who are transferring to four-year institutions. It was a very tough battle because people were not comfortable with adding on a new requirement. But most of the objection came from people who really didn't think it was important. But looking back, I think this was really crucial, especially the times we're in, that people, if you don't allow people to be able to appreciate the contributions of African Americans and the Chicanos and Mexican Americans and Latin Americans, you really want to appreciate the history of the United States. And so although that took us about 3 years before we finally got the approval, that was the most gratifying and satisfying thing that we eventually did. Obviously, we had tremendous opposition, but we persisted. Our biggest problem has always been that we are, a small department, but we had to not only to serve the college, but also the various communities that, look to us as a way of just giving them some resources. And sometimes when you have 2 or 3 faculty, that is not always that easy to do all the time. But at least we were proud is that we did come from the community, and we tried to use the institution to build in the idea that our students, will benefit not only in terms of what we taught, but also in terms of being able to use our courses to transfer to. There are two graduation requirements. First, in writing the curriculum, we initially focused on courses that will fulfill these different requirements: humanities, social science, critical thinking, and of course the American institutions. That one was primarily a fight by the faculty within the curriculum committees, and sometimes also the academic senate. Yes, in terms of multicultural graduation requirements, students were involved. But again, this also had to be fought in terms of the building institutions, faculty, in terms of the way you approve curriculum. What is interesting, actually, fortunately, at the city, we didn't have as much opposition from faculty. There was some opposition here, but most of the faculty, especially the faculty in the history department, tended to be supportive. But that one, yes, the students were involved, and we actually formed a special committee to look at that graduation requirement, and students were allowed in as observers, and we met here, we met at Mesa, but eventually that has to be approved by the board, and the students were there to testify before the board in support of the requirement. Both Mecha and the Black Student Union was very active in that struggle to establish the multicultural graduation requirement. But in terms of the other courses, we also had to struggle to make them eligible for students to use in transferring. When I first arrived, the way we did it was make it like an equivalent course. For example, if you took U.S. History 109, then you couldn't take Black Studies 140A, or Chicano Studies, I think, was 141. 141. But later on, and again in the mid-'80s, we went through what they call alignment, and eventually what again we agreed upon is that the English skills classes will be jointly offered by the English department and the Black Studies and Chicano Studies. But for the history, literature, social sciences, psychology, sociology. What we did is that we took away the equivalent, but we made sure that they fulfill the same requirements, so that the students have an option whether to take political science to fulfill social science requirement or take the introduction to black politics. So there was an effort to try to say if their sociology should be under sociology, if their history should be under history. And we did fight hard for that by saying, no, they're going to remain within the Black Studies department. Again, part of that was an effort to try to abolish the department. And so yeah, that was another bruising struggle. But that one was done within the, negotiating with departments. And of course, the board was also involved. And actually had to agree in terms of how we set up the courses. Being involved, so to speak, in the creation of this department, although I came after the department was created, there were people who were here before me. There are certain names that probably should be remembered. We still have an elder who's doing very well, Dr. Carl Wayman, who was very active in the creation of the department. Dr. Dorothy Smith, who retired after almost 30 years in the department. So at Mesa College, Professor Katie Anderson, Dr. Green Farmer, Bobby Wilson, who later became a dean. These are the people really who laid the foundation even before I arrived. And we also got very active people in the community that helped out.